Coming up on the Making Waves VO podcast.
This was when I was too scared to tell clients that I was a New Zealander, and so I would show up speaking in whatever accent I'd been booked. If it was British, it was British. Nice. If it was American. And I would die of, like, my conscience would kill me afterwards. I was like, I'm like, yeah, I know I'm an actor, but it doesn't mean I'm a liar.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
It is the Making Waves VO podcast presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Bobby, we've got an amazing guest that we're going to chat with in just a second, and we're going to talk about audio dramas, and that is going to be so much fun, but I wanted to catch up with you really quick. We talked last week, and the winter's been going pretty well. We're trying to get over all this ice and stuff, but have things been going pretty well voiceover-wise for you?
It's been going fantastic. Just fantastic. A little slow today, but I got a new dealership today, so I'm excited. And you are back on. You have your electric.
Yes,
you're back in your booth.
After 12 hours, or 12 days rather, of being without power and staying with friends. And I know they were ready to get me off their couch. And I was ready to get off their couch, quite frankly. So, but I love them. They're amazing friends, and they're among Deborah and I's best friends.
Are you a snorer? Did you snore in the house?
I'm not as bad as I used to be. But I did not get a good night's sleep once because we had both dogs with us.
Yeah.
And then they had a dog that's an old dog that was sick and coughed all the time, bless its heart, and all that stuff. But yeah, back in the studio, back working in my comfortable space and all those good things. But Bobby, I am really excited about our guest today because this is an area that we really haven't covered that much.
It is. I don't know anything about audio drama.
Well, we're gonna find out all about it.
And let's go to, I think it's a totally different season there, right?
It probably is. Let's find out all of that stuff. Let's bring her on the podcast. She's an amazingly talented voice actor from New Zealand. Some call them Kiwis. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Chloe Elmore. How are you, Chloe?
I'm doing pretty well. Doing very, very hot, like you say. It's a totally different season. You guys have had blizzards that have obliterated the USA, and I've been dying of heat stroke in my body.
So it's summer there?
Well, I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit. It is midsummer. It's like high summer right now. It's like 28 degrees Celsius. I think that's like is it the high 80s Fahrenheit?
Probably.
Oh my gosh. Well, when we saw you flit across the room at the Voice Arts Awards, you looked very radiant and tanned. So I'm not surprised now knowing.
I actually got really badly sunburned about a week bbefore LA, and I was like, oh no. The tan lines from my togs. In New Zealand, we call it swimwear togs. So I was, I thought I will never live it down if people see that there's these burn lines on stage. But yeah.
Officially 82.4 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way.
Right.
Had to look that up because my ADD mind had to know these things. So, Chloe, am I saying, do you say Chloe just like we do here in the States?
Definitely, yeah. I've got a
And
little
Elmore?
umlaut. I've got an umlaut, but it's just purely for spice. Actually, there's also, that's right, and it's Elmore too. There is a reason why I think I like to use my umlaut. I've been using it strategically since I started in voiceover 3 years ago because I do a lot of work not in my accent. I don't do much in my own accent, and it gives me it just gives me an ambiguity. So when Germans or French people hire me for an accent that I'm definitely not, native in, it's, I think it just gives me a little bit more leeway or something. I found it helpful anyway.
What accents do you do typically?
Well, typically I definitely do American. I'd say most of my income comes from 85% American.
What? Good for you.
General American, whatever that is. I know it doesn't exist. It's like a Hollywood kind of accent,
right?
Leaning very much sort of towards the West Coast, but it's just a general American accent, and then I do the next big percentage, I suppose maybe 10% in a straight sort of British received pronunciation accent. And then I do, an equal portion Australian, New Zealand. And then there's probably a 2 to 3% where it's this sort of ambiguous European sound. I can push it towards French a bit more if I need to, or I can push it towards Italian. This particular accent that I use works very well for Hungarian. I remember doing a skincare. A skincare commercial, quite a big, it was big for me at the time. It was like €1,000 or something. This was when I started 3 years ago. And it said, do not audition unless you are authentically Hungarian. And I think I was just, I was maybe desperate for the cash, I'm not sure. Or I just thought, you know what? I've gotten sort of where I am in my career by going, I'll try anything. I'll say yes to anything. They know that I'm not Hungarian. I can't do a Hungarian. I'll just do it anyway. And so I booked the job, and I was dying because it was a live directed session. I was dying of, like, my conscience was just not even eating, it was murdering me alive for about 3 days before the live directed session. And I was like, what do I say? Like, they're in the morning, they'll see my whole room is dark. They'll ask me, will I have to be in character with this accent the entire time? And then the agent sort of, or the go-between guy, the client, said, just letting you know, the owner of this, Hungarian skincare brand will be on the call with us. And I'm like, I'm dead. And so 5 minutes before, I was like, just letting you know, I'm not authentically Hungarian. And he's like, no, that's fine. We don't mind. Your accent was great for our purposes, so we don't mind. It's just got to be, So yeah, I do Russian occasionally. I do a bunch of things. I do try my hand at like some New York dialects, but the thing is, I don't think I've even met a person. Well, I probably have met a person from New York, but I haven't studied these accents, so I'm going with my gut feeling. Yeah.
Well, gosh, so just go back in time. Where did you learn all these accents? What's your background in acting, especially?
Well, so I will be 33 in a few days. I guess how it started was at the very beginning. I was homeschooled, and that meant that we were quite isolated homeschoolers. We weren't like there are lots of very, very social homeschoolers. We were more of the isolated variety. In rural New Zealand, we'd been quite badly, me and my sister we'd been quite badly hurt by some people at school. So we were withdrawn from school because it was just, it was quite bad. And so we were just, I suppose, scared of humans. I was very scared of humans. I was very, very shy. Even though I know that there was like a vibrancy in me, there was like a big personality lying dormant within me that had been smothered in real fear of people. And so my sister and I, we did go to drama classes, homeschooling drama classes. I did a bit of like a few French classes and a few ballroom dancing classes. And so that helped bring me out of my shell a little bit. But it was particularly the drama classes that I started when I was about 13 years old that sort of helped awaken something in me. I was like, this is amazing. And I had my first ever crush was this guy, American actor. I'm like, oh my gosh, it became the type. I was like, I love Americans so much. And I think, my sort of love affair with acting began. I was probably mixed up a little bit with him too. But it just made me feel like, wow, there's a confident person in me that seems to be only brought out when I'm acting. So I think I just realized I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to capture this feeling of confidence and this high of like in the little audience who would come, which is all the homeschooling parents to watch their homeschooling kids on stage in this teeny tiny little community theatre place. In fact, it was a church, I think. And they were the only audience. But when they clapped for us, I was just like, oh my gosh, I am getting this rush. So that made me, again, like I think so many of us actors, very insecure. There's this whole quote that I use: "We're all here because we're not all there," and I think there's something a little bit broken probably around actors' brains. And I certainly relate to myself as being an actor, not just a voiceover artist. I know some voiceover artists. But I certainly see myself as more of like an actor, a voice actor and an actor. And there's a particular kind of weird brokenness around actors and why we do what we do and why we are so afraid of being vulnerable, and yet why we want to completely open the bathrobe of our soul and bear that to an audience. Like there's just something not right with anyway, but I love it. I love it.
You don't want to miss what's next. Making Waves returns momentarily.
Hey, this is international award-winning voice actor Krista Walrock, and you're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Full Compass is your one-stop destination for cutting-edge audio, video, and lighting solutions. With nearly 50 years of industry expertise, we offer a vast selection of high-quality equipment, from microphones, recording interfaces, and software, to audio accessories, monitors, headphones, and other pieces to help you find your ideal sound. Our trained product experts are here to help every step of the way with unmatched customer service. You'll also get free same-day shipping, flexible financing options, and a low-price guarantee. Visit us online at fullcompass.com or call 800-356-5844 today.
Making Waves returns. In the kind of work you do, that is paramount because you do a ton of the audio drama stuff. Can you kind of describe for those that, because a lot of us play in the commercial world or the corporate narration, can you kind of explain from your point of view what is an audio drama?
Well, an audio drama is a theatre show for the ears, I would say. Some people say a movie for the ears, but to me, it's theatre for the ears. And it's very similar to what our parents' and grandparents' generations would call a radio play that used to be huge. They would, gather around a transistor radio or whatever and listen to these radio plays, which were probably being recorded in real time. I would call it, out of all forms of voiceover, the actor's medium. Because, yes, there's a director. Often, you can get... the great thing about it is that usually it is directed in an ensemble cast. And usually they are lower paying, often they're a lower paying, brand of voiceover. But that also means that it attracts people who have a lot of passion for that. And they're willing to go, you know what? Pay me $70 and we'll still have an hour-long directed session with all the cast members. Usually people will be like, no, that's not worth my time. But because it's a passion, there's a lot of passionate people in the audio drama space, and it's just a very unique form of storytelling. You don't have to match lip flaps like an animation. You don't have to. Video games are often instructional. The characters, there's a reason why characters are saying what they're saying, and it is to often direct the player to do a certain thing. But with audio drama, it's the story is king, and it's not necessarily for strategy or for the player to whatever. It's for a full immersive story. And so actors can just sort of be let loose. It's like letting a horse into the sort of meadow to play. There are less constrictions on us, less time restrictions, less restrictions, so we can really kind of own it. And
So where do these audio dramas live? Do they go to YouTube?
That's a really
Spotify,
good question. Yeah,
Apple?
Yeah, all of the above. It depends. It really depends on how big they are. Audible Originals is coming out with a lot more audio dramas. So they pay, quite decently as audio dramas go. Places like Wondery and a lot of different houses, like publishing houses, are now doing audio dramas. And there's obviously a crossover into like full cast audiobooks as well, which is slightly different. But the lower budget ones will definitely be on, I'm sure all of them will be on YouTube. And most of them will be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and as they say, wherever you get your podcasts. But certainly there are higher echelon audio dramas now, which are even part of the union. They'll get union actors. They'll get movie stars and celebrities, TV show celebrities, and they'll do audio dramas as well. So yeah, a variation, but they are definitely kicking up. In the there's more and more of them coming out.
And that's through your agent generally?
No, usually audio dramas are word of mouth, actually. You find these, the sort of the fleshy white underbelly of the subculture of voice acting. And often they live on Discord, which I had never even heard about until I started voice acting 3 years ago. So yeah, sort of the underground of all the social media chats. But yeah, usually someone knows someone who knows someone. And there is the audio drama festival. There's like an audio drama. Yeah, it's like the film festival. It's a 48-hour audio drama festival. And a lot of people will be shoulder tapped to kind of be brought on to that. And then from there, connections grow. I think it's the same across the board with voice acting. It's who you know and who knows you and word of mouth and that kind of thing.
So when you're doing a radio drama, this is a two-part question. You mentioned that a lot of times you'll be directed and you'll be, quote unquote, in the same room with the other actors. But are you ever recording parts solo and sending them in? And the other part of this question is, what genres are these dramas? Are they typically dramas only? Are they thrillers? They comedies? Anything like that?
Yeah, good question. So some of the first one of the first, I think, audio dramas as I was a part of was The Strata, and that's quite like a big, it's quite well known now. It gets, I don't know how many, potentially millions of like downloads. I can't remember the numbers on it, but that was one of my first ones. And Mark Healy, the creator of The Strata, and he's also created Blood Rock Springs and Road of Shadows. They are, The Strata is a cyber sci-fi. It's got mystery elements. It is a drama. Road of Shadows has got horror thriller. It's like a horror thriller drama. Blood Rock Springs, again, is a horror thriller drama set in the outback in Australia. And so some of them are, high fantasy. I've been on one which is, a high fantasy, set in sort of a Lord of the Ringsy style era.
Okay.
So yeah, it really depends. There are anime style, so that obviously you have to match your vocal style to that particular genre. Like, if it's fantasy, there's obviously a particular kind of vocal style. Anime has got a very particular kind of vocal style. So depending on their genre, they cover really anything. There's lots of murder mystery audio dramas coming out. I've been listening to some murder mystery audio dramas, and there are some Regency period audio dramas. There's sort of, they go across the whole spectrum.
I love that.
I just saw that you are presenting at a little mini conference that I've been kind of checking out lately, the Get Out of Your Booth. Is that what you're presenting in?
Yes. They've asked me to present on accents and character development.
Okay.
But I will definitely cross over into this because obviously the second part to your question, Kevin, was around the character development that I have to do on my own because Mark Healy with The Strata, Road of Shadows and Blood Rock Springs, that I've invited him into some of the sessions that I've done. For me, he just likes the actors to all send their files individually to self-record on their own. That's, his method. And I love as an actor, like I love the sort of synergy and chemistry between actors. So I've often reached out to my scene partners if I can find them, and I've said, like, do you want to set up a live directed session? And I've invited Mark to be just sort of a fly on the wall for those sessions, and because often you just need to be in the same universe, because sometimes it is really hard knowing what the other actor is bringing. And yeah, I was in an audio drama. It's called Jake Muller Blood. Blood is the episode. Jake Muller is sort of the whole series. And it was last year. I was heading to, it was 2024. I was going to Voiceover Atlanta for my first time ever in America. And I just arrived in my layover, Dallas, in my layover airport. And I turned on my Wi-Fi and got an email from someone who I'd worked with on a meditation app, which was one of my first ever voiceover jobs 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he was like, we've late notice, our actor for this character, Penelope, is sick. Would you be able to step in and record for her? And I was like, oh my gosh, well, I'm like just walking through an airport and I don't really know where I'll find a studio, but I will do my best. And I ended up staying with this stranger who was a voice actor, and used her booth the next morning at like 6 a.m. And that whole cast, very unique situation. The whole cast of Jake Muller had rented out a studio in Chicago for a whole week, and they were all 20 to 30 members of the cast were recording in the same room together, and they had like call times. It's very, very unique. It doesn't happen. It just does not happen ever. Yeah. They had some amazing funding and producers behind them who really believed in it, who were funding it, but it does not happen. Like accommodation cost paid and everything. But I was the only one who was not like in the actual room with them, and the two of the actors in my scene were not there. Two of them were and two of them weren't. And I was like, my character is this modern day vampire in the like real modern day subculture, modern day vampire subculture in Chicago. And I was like coughing up blood, and I was hysterical. I was having like sort of this almost demonic manifestation type thing. And I listened back to the episode now, and the female who was in the scene with me, who's like reacting to all that I was doing, she'd recorded her parts before, and I was recording my parts like second. We weren't. I wish we'd been in the same room together, because I could hear her going, hey, like, Penelope, calm down. Whoa, don't do that. Like, that's, and I was kind of, like going to town on it. So you can tell, like, we were not in the same universe. So I definitely favor full casts being in the same room together for sure, if at all possible. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lacey Deline, voice artist and producer, and you're watching Disney Channel. No, podcast. Making Waves. Oh, Kevin and Bobby's thing. Whoops.
I'm curious. We obviously have a lot of English-speaking American listeners, and when you learned the American accent, how did they tell you to do it? What were just describe some of the things that they said to you? Because I hear a lot of people say really flat vowels. Do you remember?
It's a great question. I should front foot this by saying that I've never actually studied accents. I've never taken one accent class. So you're right, it is like feedback from people, or just like, I think it's putting in the time, just again and again and again and again and again. The American accent I was trying to do for years was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. So I think it was just me listening and auditioning and listening and auditioning and listening to myself as I was like sending off these auditions, going, oh, that just didn't sound right. That's not what I hear. So I'm sort of finessing, and like the vowels especially, finessing the vowels as I'm listening to it. And this is over like, tens of thousands of hours of trying to get this right and practicing. And it's a really good question. I know that Americans struggle often. This is just a generalization, but I've heard it from other voice actors who specialize in accents, that Americans, maybe because most of the media they consume is also American, they struggle maybe to do other accents like British, for example. And I've heard it described really well recently by J.B. Blanc that it's because we as like New Zealanders, Australians and British people, we can often be better at doing an American accent because we relax down into the accent, whereas because the American accent is a little like there's a different placement in the mouth, and the British accent especially is a lot of it is in the upper palate and in the top of the mouth. So Americans are having to like lift up and push up into the British accent. So often it can sound a little bit too posh or too forced and things like that. But for us, we probably because of also we consume a lot of American media. Most of the media in the world is American. So we get sort of, I guess, in a want of a better word, brainwashed, is it? I don't know. Yeah, we get immersed in American accent, so maybe it's just sort of in our muscle memory a bit more. But yeah, it's
just self-taught with the accents.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah,
just listening.
Yeah, that's right.
Of course,
right.
I mean, when Downton Abbey came out, I was, of course, doing Mary. You know, it's like if you're watching it, you want to try it, you want to emulate it.
Exactly.
You know, we're actors. That's what we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Have you had any pushback on as a Kiwi? Can I call you a Kiwi?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Getting jobs with an American accent.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this in any disrespect at all. I'm just curious.
Oh, my mum and dad were saying that actually just yesterday. They were like, because mum follows me on social media. God forbid. Yeah, she follows me on social media. And she's like, Chloe, someone commented on like your post the other day, like, Chloe, leave some for the rest of us kind of thing.
Oh,
and
no.
I was like, yeah, you know, when you get comments which are like joking, not joking, I think I get a few of those. I've had some people who, like, they're friends of mine, so I know that it's a joking, not joking sort of situation, but it's mostly in love. But they're like, Chloe, one of them, she was like, she's so lovely. She really champions my whole career, but she's like, Chloe, you are never, ever, ever allowed to use your American accent ever again. Like, please leave some for the rest of us. And you know, so I get messages like that reasonably frequently. But I'm like, hey, I've got a living to make, people. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to get it while we can. We never know.
Yeah.
You know, when our time might be up or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Chloe, something we like to do on the podcast, most episodes, is get a nightmare session story from our voice actors. I don't know if you'd be up for it, but we'd love to have a story of a session that maybe couldn't have gone much worse if you have one. If not, no worries. But we'll do that in just a little bit. But let's keep on the accent thing.
Yeah.
What accent can you dive right into and you're like, yeah, I'll be solid at this, ready to go. I'm happy to be hired with this accent. Conversely, what's an accent that you've done and been paid for that you're like, that was trash?
Yeah. I feel extremely confident in my American and British, like general American and general British. Like since I speak more in those accents during the week than my own accent. You know, ironically, sometimes I struggle to speak in my own accent. I did the Partial Veil podcast, Partial Veil audio drama by the amazing Alison Cossett, and she's like, Chloe, no one ever gets you to act in New Zealand, so I'm going to write you a New Zealand character, but she's going to be pretending to be a New Zealander, and it's going to be revealed that she's actually an American. And I said, just letting you know, Alison, I really struggle to act in my own accent. I don't know why. I can hear myself lying. That's what it feels like to me. Like, I'm like, oh, that's really, wow. I'm like, oh, that just doesn't sound, Chloe wouldn't say that. So I hear myself. I don't hear the character, a New Zealand character. I hear Chloe. And I'm like, you're lying, Chloe. So I said that and she's like, no, I don't believe you. And then we started to record and she's like, oh my gosh, I believe you now. She was like, oh, this is bad. Let's quickly get you into your American accent so that we can salvage this character. She ended up getting some good acting out of me anyway. But so the American accent, I had to develop a very muscular tongue because the New Zealand, we have a very lazy tongue and a very active jaw. You can pretty much talk in the New Zealand accent by keeping your teeth closed. And it's just like your mouth can pretty much, and your jaw does a lot of the work. The American accent, it's a very mobile tongue. It's going all over the show and a more relaxed jaw. So there are certain accents which it takes warming up, like the Russian accent. It takes me warming up the particular, again, there's a different placement of the tongue that's quite active and muscular, and it goes places where my lazy New Zealand tongue just doesn't usually go. And so that I would have to warm up into that and sort of, listen to some references and then sort of get in the zone. So I can't necessarily just sort of switch it on as easily. I'm like, I could, but for a character of like recording for an hour, I would have to warm up into it. Right. I did earlier on in my career, like 3 years ago, I booked a very serious. This was when I was too scared to tell clients that I was a New Zealander, and so I would show up speaking in whatever accent I'd been booked. If it was British, it was British. Nice. If it was American. And I would die of, like, my conscience would kill me afterwards. I was like, I'm like, yeah, I know I'm an actor, but it doesn't mean I'm a liar. Although, they seem like they're the same thing, but it's really not. It's like being an actor is more like being a professional truth teller, actually. And so I was just, but anyway, so I didn't tell these particular clients that I wasn't Scottish. It was a Scottish accent for Action for Children, so quite a serious charity, and a very sad, sort of very somber voiceover piece. And I was sort of going, could I send you some recordings and you can give me feedback? We don't have to have a live directed session, do we? But they wanted the clients and the agents and everyone to be on the call, and it was just.
Oh, nice.
This is not my nightmare session that I'll share, but this was a nightmare session, and so I was, like, me can chit chat all the way through, but I didn't really want to, talk too much because I had up to that point, I'd really not practiced in a Scottish accent ever really in my life. And the last person I remember hearing who was a Scottish person was David Tennant. Back in the Doctor Who era, even though he had a British accent back then, like it was like probably 8 years previously that the last time I'd heard a Scottish accent, and so I was really flying by the seat of my pants. And but they were everyone was happy with it. There was a few Scottish people and mostly British people on the call. There were like 6 people on the call, and It was just, I was sweating with guilt and shame. and I made a decision shortly after that that I would come clean and tell people that I was actually not that thing. I was actually a New Zealander.
I think it would be equally as hard for you to do a serious role because you're so bright and energetic naturally, too. So you're adding one on top of the other.
Yeah. I love to channel the obviously there's all parts of my personality. It's the darker characters. There's always a real part of Chloe that's being channeled into that, which is a scary thing. It's like I have to tap into a really genuine part of myself. These ugly parts. I think you have to be very comfortable with all parts. You have to have a peace with all parts of yourself. I've certainly faced so much of my brokenness where I can channel into some very aggressive and awful characters. Not because I'm lying and pretending, but it's because I think I've tapped into those parts of myself and I've come to peace with them, and they are in a very healed place. So I'm not scared of them, if that makes sense. But yeah,
sure.
I
want to go back to the Sovas Awards again, because you were up and down that stage multiple times that night, picking up awards for what? I'm assuming friends or colleagues.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, she's, accepting it for she's so sweet. I see this beautiful red dress going up, and then there she is again, and there she is again, and finally you won.
Yeah. Oh, that was
Congratulations.
So funny. It was so good. I remember I had about six voiceover friends who would ask me to be their proxy to accept their awards on their behalf. And two of them had said, Chloe, I bet you'll be on stage multiple times and it won't be for me. And I was like, I bet you are wrong. I bet you I will be on stage for everyone except me. And I felt that was actually the best part of the whole thing. I probably would have been very embarrassed accepting anything on my behalf. But yeah, one of them was for Alison Cossett for Partial Veil, where I was that character who was the American pretending to be a New Zealander who, So that was really, really such a privilege when my colleagues who could see me as a competitor and we could see each other as competitors, they would ask me to receive on their behalf out of anyone they could have asked. I felt so humbled. It's an expensive exercise going over to LA. The whole Sovers was expensive. I think all in all it was $8,500 New Zealand dollars for the whole thing. So, but it's so worth it to me. It was so worth it on so many levels. And certainly to honor my other castmates who entrusted me with that. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It kind of reinvigorates you, and it's just great being with our people because, we all know what we do and we can identify with each other in what we do, the struggles and, everything we go through. So, yeah, congrats on all your wins and accepting for your friends as well. And the Making Waves VO podcast, we'll be right back.
Hey, bonjour, parev, marhaba. It's Liana Badawi, voice actor, singer, and puppeteer coming to you live from the Great White North, baby. And you're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby. Thanks for tuning in.
Oh, Bobby, I remember getting into voiceover, and one of the most exciting parts about getting into voiceover is buying all the gear. You don't realize that until you become a voice actor and you got to produce your own stuff. And you go, ooh, this part should be fun. But then you go, I have not a clue on what I'm supposed to buy.
Exactly.
That's why you trust your good friends at Full Compass, fullcompass.com. They know VO there, and you're going to have a great selection of pro audio gear, and you're going to get a lot of good help. And there's a lot of good attributes that go along with buying from Full Compass.
Yeah, so if you're not really sure when you got the piece of equipment and you have questions about it, they have a free 2-year service or repair plan. They have free shipping on orders over $49. I love that. I think my favorite thing is the low price guarantee because you just never know. You said a second ago that you're getting into this and you don't know what you need, but how about do you know if you're paying the right price for it? So you don't have to worry about that when you shop at fullcompass.com. They'll guarantee to match the price on the products they sell for new, identical, and immediately available products offered at a lower price.
They have flexible financing, Bobby, and they also have free expert assistance, and that's why we say we know VO at Full Compass.
Everything from microphones to interfaces to headphones to mic booms, they've got it.
If you have any questions and you're more old school and you want to call them on the phone, you can call Full Compass at 800-356-5844. Full Compass and fullcompass.com.
We know VO. And now back to Making Waves. I just wanted to ask you, we kind of touched on this at the very beginning. How is that going from LA back to home and then, jumping on calls that are in, Eastern time or Pacific Coast time? How is that for you? When do you sleep?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's a window in my life which is between 7 p.m. and 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. where I don't get any emails because Australia has officially sort of closed down usually for the day. New Zealand has closed down. Europe isn't awake. America is long since asleep. And there's this window, this dinner hour window where I'm like, and then usually it's sort of 8 a.m. the UK time, which is around 9 p.m. my time, I'll start getting the emails again. So yeah, it's certainly, sometimes it's mind-boggling. The last few weeks, since coming back from LA, and the next 2 or 3 weeks are some of the busiest I have ever had to contend with. And I've had to contend with busy jobs. I've got like 3 AAA video games across 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. And so some of them are in Eastern Standard Time, and then some of them Pacific Standard Time, and then some of them are in Europe. And I'm sort of just having to like look at my calendar and sort of make sense of this huge, big sort of 3D puzzle piece and work out going, okay, I'll be able to vocally rest if there's lots of barks and lots of vocally stressful stuff. I'll be able to rest there. And of course, with my New Zealand agent, I have to drive into the city for lots of sessions, which takes an hour to drive there and an hour back. And so, last week I had a few sessions in the city and I was like, Mom, can you drive me? Because I've got emailing to do and I've got breakfast to eat. And so you have to have a support system. Absolutely. My parents, bless their heart, they don't know anything really about what this job really takes. But so they are emotional support for me on some level, but I plug into the American voiceover scene because you need to feel supported by people who are right in the trenches with you. Even though they're, a good 35-hour flight away, I feel like they're right in the trenches with me. Social media connects us in a really precious, deep way. And as I know a lot of people I know in this business have spouses, and I've been single my entire life. I've never been on a date. I've been on one date in my life, maybe like 6 years ago. But sometimes I feel very much like unsupported in some ways. I certainly have to financially support myself, like completely financially support myself. And it might come to the point where I have to financially support my parents. My dad's going to be 71 soon. And so, there's a lot. Sometimes I feel like there's a lot on my shoulders. And so I am trying to make hay while the sun shines and certainly stand on my own 2 feet in many ways and juggle so many plates spinning in the air. And but yeah, I do love it. It's just we have to wear so many hats. I have to be my own therapist, with sessions. I have to be my own agent, my own mental coach, my own sort of, I thank goodness I have sort of supports around me, but I have to be my own accountant, my own, my own manager, my own everything. So it's, it can be a lot.
But that
sometimes.
Support is huge, though. That support of all of our people is huge.
Yeah.
It has been such a pleasure getting to know you, Chloe, from meeting you in person in LA a few weeks back. We like to share these stories, though, among all our voice actor friends. Yeah, like we've had these stories that couldn't have gone much worse while we're recording. Would you mind sharing, Chloe Elmore, a nightmare session story with us?
Yes.
Nightmare Sessions.
Yes, and I hope this also helps anyone out there who is as green as a piece of salad as I was back when this happened. So this was probably 2 years ago. I won't tell you who the studio was, but the publisher was Square Enix, and it was nothing to do with them. They are irreproachable in their dealings. I've got nothing but great things to say about them. But the studio working on their behalf were probably a bit new, maybe, hadn't probably dealt with voice actors much before. I mean, they also actually probably had. I know that they'd been sending out lots and lots of casting calls for this video game, and so I want to say that there was inexperience on their behalf, but yeah, also they could have done better. So anyway, the session was a 2-hour. Actually, I think it was a 3-hour session. They probably didn't realize that there are professional actors and then there are amateur actors. And amateur actors aren't necessarily always like well versed in. And at this time, I'd been a year into my voice acting, but I'd done efforts and exertion training, so I felt confident enough. And there's an art, there's a real skill in making efforts and exertions and fighting sounds real. And the best thing about it is you just fully commit. And so I think they they thought that most people would probably offer them like lots of unbelievable type sounds. So they were covering their bases to like, it sort of upsets me and sickens me to this day. But they had an Excel spreadsheet of about 100 different exertions and probably 50 different kinds of deaths. And like,
Wow.
yeah, like asphyxiation, drowning, stabbing, being, being thrown, being strangled, dying by fire, like any form of death they had got. So there were about 100 different fighting, dying, sort of slashing, cutting, blah, 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 blah. 100 of those, 50 types of death. And they wanted 10 weak, 10 medium, and 10 strong of each of those.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No.
So 150 times 30, So 10 mild, 10 medium, and 10 strong of each. And I as a yes girl, the thing is, my mum does say about me, she's like, one of the great qualities about you, Chloe, is you're a yes girl. And every actor is. Improv teaches you yes and. You never say no. You always say yes, 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 yes. But also, I'm a Kiwi, and we are historically, we do not have good boundaries. I'm sure there are many Americans who don't have great boundaries either.
Yes.
But I'm just like, yeah, okay, And I think they paid $150 an hour, which is still a bit lower than probably the sort of standard 200 250 and indie sort of rates. And so I like blew out my voice. I blew out my voice for 3 hours. And I it was the only time in my life where, because of pure vocal violence on my poor little vocal cords, I couldn't speak for 2 weeks. And so the cost of that, of the meager pay on a character ethnically that I'll never be able to talk about, and I don't really want to talk about it, I wish I could just go back in time and not do it. So I'll never be able to talk about the fact that I did that with, under a Square Enix umbrella, and the pay. And I think it's done permanent damage to my voice. My voice really changed after that. I often sing with Mum at church, and I just couldn't reach the high notes. And I still struggle. I get really scratchy in my upper register. And so I suppose I was really mainly resentful at myself that I didn't have the balls to say, hey, could we take time out, or at least a break, a break. And also that they weren't sort of checking in with this. And at the end, they were like, you're actually really good at efforts and exertions. And I was like, did you get me to do all of that because you thought I'd be bad and you wanted to make sure you covered your bases?
Wow.
And I was like, most professional studios would get you to do, maybe 3, but they would be very specific and targeted about what they wanted. And there are some deaths that just sound like general deaths that you can actually have crossover, that you can, strangulation and drowning could sound quite similar. There's all sorts of things where there could be crossovers. But I think studios, and if I was to do something differently, I would say, well, you know what, you guys, I'm afraid I can't do 10. I can do 3 of each. And is there any way that we could do some crossovers of some of them? So that was just, to this day,
what a nightmare.
I feel emotional pain and the physical pain of that 3-hour session. And, my parents were upstairs at the time keeping as quiet as a mouse because it was before I had my proper booth, and they were like, oh, Chloe, that you did damage, girl. You did damage. That was
They're
not
like, so
cool.
this is voice acting, huh?
That's right, exactly. I was like, you guys better
Chloe,
keep your day jobs.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure getting to know you, and that is a wild story. That is a true nightmare session. My goodness. But we're so glad to have you in our world. thanks so much for doing what you do in terms of your performances and being a bright, shining light for the industry.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Kevin and Bobby. It's just a
Thank
joy to be
you.
able to share with you and to be able to laugh and cry together about what we laugh and cry about alone.
Yeah. Hey, maybe I'll see you at that conference this summer. That'd be fun.
Definitely. I'll be at VO Atlanta, I'll be at One Voice in Dallas, and I'll be at Get Out of Your Booth. So I hope I might see you guys at least at one of them.
Love it.
Have a great week.
You too,
And
you
if
guys.
folks wanted to check out Chloe's work, you can go to chloevoices.com. Chloe Elmore, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
That was so great to get to know the audio drama world a little bit more, Bobby. And Chloe, what a bright, shining light. She
really is. So much energy.
Could she be more enthusiastic?
I know. I know. I wonder if she was a really outgoing child.
Oh,
if she
I'm
was
sure.
really vocal.
It sure sounds like it. You know, she's a singer, dancer, actor, and apparently she's got the chops to do 3 hours of efforts and not complain about it. My goodness, that sounds awful. I've heard other voice actors talk about that, and they do get to a point where they get the balls, like Chloe was saying she wished she had, but they'll say, hey, look, I need a break, or I can't do this more than 1 hour at a time or something.
The only worse thing than that is when you do that and you don't get paid. I did that once for, it was a Russian client, and they just totally ghosted me, and they had given me it was like a children's characters, and I did so much work for them, didn't see a diddly dime. I was really upset.
And that's the ones. Oh, how frustrating. All right, Bobby. Well, we're going to...
It's hard to leave it in a bad note.
Yeah, that's okay. But Chloe is great to have on, and we wish her much success moving forward. The Making Waves VO podcast is presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Bye, Bobby.
Bye.
The Making Waves VO podcast is produced by K2 Media Productions with hosts Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. Sound design and editing by Jason Traver. Production assistance by Lacey Deline. Publicity and social media by Shannon Scott and Silas Phillips. Be sure to subscribe to the Making Waves VO podcast on your favorite platform. For all episodes, merchandise, gear, and more, visit makingwavesvo.com. Until next time, I'm AJ McKay. Keep making waves.